I'm Barbara Turley and you're watching another episode of Feminine Wealth TV, the show that uncovers the diamond tips on creating truly conscious wealth from change makers, world shakers and wealth creators. I'm super excited to be joined on the show today by Brooke Alexander, who is the founder of The Legacy Project and the author of the soon-to-be released book by the same name. Yeah, Brooke, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's brilliant to have you on the show because, you know, I know when I first found you online, because I actually found the book online, I was following your work. And what I loved about it initially, I saw that you talk about living your legacy as opposed to leaving a legacy, which is what we normally say. So can you tell us a bit about, like, what was the decision there to change those words around and to sort of launch this new movement and mission around living your legacy?
Sure. Well, I've really been surrounded by the concept of legacy my whole entire life. I grew up on a 40,000 acre sheep, wheat and cattle station, and
great fun.
My great grandfather is actually buried on one of the properties. So in the bush you have this all-pervading sense of heritage. So as a little girl I can remember being told, well, this is how we've always done it. So this idea of legacy and the actions of others from the past has kind of been in my psyche all the way through.
You're sort of grown up with that, really.
And also in the sense of business. So because I come from a family business, my heart was always in the bush, but my head wanted to do more. So my body is made up of entrepreneurial bones.
Right, okay.
And when I considered about what people are doing and how they're making a difference in the world, they're consciously living their legacy. They're not leaving a legacy by default. So it's this idea that rather than think about why you're doing something down the track, bring an awareness to living your purpose and your mission and your vision every single day.
And I guess, I suppose, if you are going to leave a legacy, you can't just at the end decide, okay, now I'm going to leave a legacy. You've actually got to build that the whole way along the journey.
Absolutely. I mean, intention is 99% of this game, as you all know. And I'm sure for those watching, people understand that you need to have an intent to create something. But this idea of living your legacy, you see, we all create a legacy, whether we're conscious of it or not. And that's the defining point, I think, because we're all walking around, many people are walking around, unconscious of their actions, their thoughts, their behaviours.
And the footprint that you're leaving and the impact on the world.
So this idea of living your legacy, whether you're an individual or an entrepreneur or an organisation, it's really about being active and aware and conscious of what you're creating in every moment.
So tell me, the Legacy Project, what, I mean, we've talked about living a legacy, but the Legacy Project, what is that exactly?
So the Legacy Project is kind of an extension of how you would live your legacy. So many people talk about finding their purpose and living on purpose. And for a lot of people out there, that's tough. You know, we're sucked into this spiritual...
People are very upset when they can't find their purpose.
You know, what's my purpose? I don't know what I'm meant to be doing, and it creates fear. And this fear, you know, makes us contract, and rather than expand and share what our difference and contribution can be in the world, we actually make ourselves smaller. And so this idea of a legacy project is actually thinking beyond your immediate self. What's something that I can create? So for an entrepreneur, their business is their legacy project. For a writer, their book is their legacy project. For an artist, you know, that's taking specific examples. But if you look at big organisations, you know, there's legacy projects within every division.
Making up a cultural brand or an idea that they're going after.
So, and I think it taps into this movement that we have around, you know, planet and profits and purpose and how you actually make that tangible.
And companies, as you say, that there is a big movement there. There's the whole triple bottom line accounting now. Everyone's trying to think differently. It's not just about profit, it's about what your, I guess, the footprint.
And how you're benefiting all stakeholders. You know, I was recently at an event which was for directors and executive directors, and the guy at the front of the room said, you know, that all of, you know, the board table, the directors, they have a responsibility to all shareholders. And so I piped up the back of the room and I said, actually, they have a responsibility to all stakeholders. And he shut me down. And that's what the Legacy Project is all about. It's kind of like, it's changing thinking, it's shaking things up, and it's saying, no, you have to be consciously responsible
And I think actually for me, I love the word project because it implies this sense of movement.
Yes.
And sense of something evolving and changing and a lot of people working on it together. And I love the idea that it almost feels to me like the website or whatever is going to be this place where everybody can come together and we're all actually living and leaving a legacy.
Absolutely.
As a collective,
yeah.
whether we like it or not.
Yeah. And I think that's what's really powerful. You know, if we look at the web and social media and using the power of that for good and not evil, all we have to do is look at the rise of Upworthy, you know, in terms of sharing content. Now, for the entrepreneurs out there watching, I think this is a really interesting fact that their business model was actually repurposing, there's that word again, repurposing content that actually existed online and sharing it in a meaningful way. And I think that's what's hooking into popular culture. That's what's making people question the role that they're playing at work, you know, the tasks that they're having to entertain on a daily basis. I know for women who are going back to work,
I know.
You know,
women are really struggling with this. I mean, I've had this conversation with a few women. Okay. You know, in the corporate world, I mean, women are, I won't say leaving in droves, but there's two camps. There's either the Sheryl Sandberg camp of lean into your career and, you know, feminine leadership and all that in the corporate world. Yeah. And then there's the ones going, yeah, I get all that, but actually I want to go my own way because that doesn't really appeal to me anymore.
Yeah, and I think women and maybe the Legacy Project will attract more women than men. In the short term, because women actually like projects.
They do.
You know, it's like, just give me something that I can do and get done.
It's that whole sense of giving and contribution and growth and all those things that women tend to, I mean, I'm not saying men don't like that, they do too, but women tend to respond really well to that.
But something that you're talking about, which I love, which is this whole idea of, you know, femininity and the rise of that, I think that's coming into men now.
Yeah, but I think it's the balancing up really. I mean, I talk a lot about this feminine energy that's coming into the world. It doesn't matter whether it's the world of business, wealth, politics, leadership, whatever. But it's not about men versus women. It's that men also have feminine energy and women also have masculine energy, but the whole world is being driven by masculine energy for far too long.
Exactly.
And we just need the feminine to come in and balance things up rather than tilt too far the other way.
Couldn't agree.
Yeah. So in terms of your own legacy project or living your legacy, tell me about, do you feel that you're living your legacy now?
I do. I feel like I'm doing the work that I'm meant to be doing. I'm trained as a brand strategist, so I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I started my first business when I was 23.
High five! I love that. I wish I'd done that.
Oh, look, there are a few times where I thought I wish I was getting the paycheck from accounts. But that idea that I was meant to be doing something has always been within me. And right now, this is how it's showing up. I don't believe that we'll have a purpose that stays true all the way through.
It changes.
Yeah. Absolutely. So for me right now, I feel on purpose. I feel on track. I'm still learning in the moment within that. A friend of mine would say that actually I'm remembering, getting my life lessons. So she actually believes that we come here to remember. Whereas I believe we come here to learn something that we...
I'm probably more on that one. I think we need to learn. Yeah. And then to impart that learning. Like each of us gets a different learning and then our responsibility is to impart that learning on the others.
Exactly.
So that again the collective can learn from each other.
Yeah.
And what would you say, I mean, finding your own voice and your own truth, I think that's one of the hard, it's like finding the purpose thing. People really struggle with it and they find it very difficult. What do you see in the clients that you deal with, the greatest obstacles that people have to trying to find their voice?
It's a great question. You know, I think historically we have, particularly in Australia and I think in the US, we have this culture of conformity.
So it's probably the Anglo-Saxon culture.
It is. It is. Yeah. You know, I can remember years ago sitting at a dinner party, having probably one too many glasses of red wine, that I wanted to.
All the best ideas.
Of course. You know, if only we had our notepads, writing everything down, but. That if I could remove this concept of tall poppy in Australia, I would have done my job.
Change the world.
You know, and I can remember the people at the time going, you know, we were smoking, some of us were, back then, good luck with that, Brookie. And I think that's it. You know, how do you remove that, how do you remove that framework and that barrier is really through people recognising their talents. So
and helping people to bring that out of themselves.
Absolutely. And we become so, particularly women, we become so used to wearing masks that we become the mask.
Yeah.
You know?
And we wear several masks. We wear a lot of different masks all the time. Then you go peel one off, and then there's another appears, and before you know it, you don't even know who you are.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. You know, there's that concept called imposter syndrome.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
we all have that. I think we all have that.
Yeah, to some degree.
Yeah.
And I think it serves us in some ways.
Well, it's probably a protection mechanism as well in some ways.
Absolutely. You know, it really does. But I think for people to become authentic, you know, it's such a buzzword, and I don't love it, but it serves a purpose in that I think people do need to just get really clear on what their values are. When you understand inherently what your values are, and I like to think of my values as my emotions and my feelings. I know Danielle Laporte talks about them as being core desired feelings.
Yes, that's right.
Which is
her desire map thing. I love that idea.
It's really powerful. And Danielle, if you're watching, we love your work.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
But, you know, that whole concept of being attached to the feeling, because the feeling is really what we want to feel.
Actually, the feeling, it's interesting you say that, because I always think as well, when I talk about money, I sort of say to people, what does money mean to you? Because really, it's the same thing. We're all after a certain feeling. We're after how it makes us feel, or the things that we can buy or do with money. It's how it makes us feel. And you want to tap into that to make sure that people are truly getting what it is they want.
Exactly.
Yeah, not what they think they want.
Exactly. Big difference, that one.
Big difference.
Big difference.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of it, you know, for people to actually get real. And sometimes you've got to have icky conversations.
Yeah, or icky experiences.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are broken open by bad experiences, or, as I call them, the bitter lemons that get thrown at you in life. And they crack you wide open. And actually, that's where the diamonds are.
They are.
When those hit you in life, you have to go into them to find the diamonds.
Exactly. And lots of people, you know, talk about when they're on professional development programs or any type of personal journey, that comment of, I wish I didn't have to break down
to break through. The only way out the other side is through the middle.
But you got to feel it.
Yeah.
You know, you got to feel it. It's a bit cliche, but you got to feel it to heal it.
To heal it, yeah.
You really do. Yeah. And I think that's in all aspects of life. And I think the individuals that take responsibility for their lives, they then are living their legacy. Yeah.
So what about, like, I mean, obviously, without going through all the icky experiences and the whole journey of life to get to your legacy, I mean, what are the steps? Is there any way we can get to yes with our legacy? Some steps that you can take us there?
I think everybody overcomplicates things.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
I think we have a lot of static noise going around in our heads. And I think that we
have a lot of shoulds.
Exactly.
And other people's judgments and ideas about who we should be.
Exactly. Yeah. So you need to clear that. So how you clear that is just simply to make a decision to clear that. So it actually comes from a place of inner strength. It comes from a desire to change your life. So a lot of the work that I do when I'm mentoring and coaching people, I'm actually a little bit confrontational.
Well, you kind of have to push them out. You have to push them out of the comfort zone.
You do.
In order to find the answers.
You do. Yeah. But the answer will always be within.
It's in there.
And a great coach will always just help you bring it to life. And that's really what I think people need to do, is just say, how do I get clear? Now, for some people that might be changing careers. For other people that might be changing their diet. You know, I think the world really needs to live better by eating whole foods.
Yeah, I totally agree.
You know,
and waking up from the slumber that we're all in. From
and the toxic chemicals.
Because you can't find your core voice and your truth.
Yeah.
If you're eating crap and you're filling yourself full of toxins and everyday stresses.
Exactly. So it's something that I'm actually going through at the moment. I'm going through quite a dramatic lifestyle change in terms of my diet. And not in a weird, wacky, woo-woo way. Just wow, I feel so much better.
I did it a few years ago as well. I think I was going through a big transition in my own life and thinking, career and everything. And I started reading on the whole. I mean, I was always a good eater, but I started eating more raw foods. And the difference in me in the years is phenomenal. In my energy levels and my outlook and my clarity.
Yeah.
So
clarity.
It's clarity.
That's what we're after.
The fog is
clarity. Because you make better decisions when you're clear.
Yeah.
You're not reactive, you're proactive.
Yes.
So, you know, you come home and someone has a bad day and you're not...
you don't feel it's all because of you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Somebody else's thing is their thing.
Yeah. And I think that also kind of wraps into this whole, well, how are we showing up in the planet? you know, what's our legacy for the next generation? And it's our responsibility to actually change our habits so then organisations and companies...
Yeah, and knock-on effect on everyone, on your families, on the businesses you work for and create, and whatever way you're going to show up in the world. Yeah, it's the mindfulness thing.
It is.
So being mindful for a while.
Absolutely.
And bring you to the answer.
You know, so many people are meditating now, and I personally have a meditation practice. I probably don't do it as much as I should.
I know, as you said that, I'm going, I do too, kind of.
I think we all say that,
every morning.
I meditate.
Do I have time to meditate?
You know, I can remember.
And I like this, you know, after 4 minutes, I'm like... Exactly. I do try, but I do agree with you though. It is something I try to cultivate.
Yeah. So you know, a friend of mine, he suggested just go for a morning walk meditation. Just choose to be present.
It doesn't have to be the thing. It can be whatever it is to you.
Yeah.
To be just out in nature and just try to clear your mind.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I like that theory.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot more realistic in our lives. You know, if you like this idea of living a legacy and creating a legacy, then, okay, how do I make it work for me? You know, a lot of people have passion projects when they discover, right, that's my purpose. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily look like a life that they've had in the past. So they have to make a massive change.
That can be very scary.
So to create that change, I think discipline is key. So whether that's...
You need courage.
Well, you do.
You need courage to change something so big. So I want to talk a little bit now. You work with individuals, companies and large organisations. And what I wanted to ask you about that, I mean, today in the business world, when everyone's talking about pick your niche, get specific, you know, I deal with women who have this age and this problem, and
know your customer avatar,
know your avatar, and all that stuff, right? And I love the fact that you haven't gotten drawn into that so much. And I want to know what are your thoughts on that, and what was the decision to decide that yours is bigger than that?
Great
that
question.
Small thinking.
Yeah, totally. So wearing the hat of a brand strategist.
Yes.
I have been plagued by that concept myself, if I was going to be really open and share. I have been. But what I realised was that actually your legacy is your ultimate brand.
Yes.
So from a commercial value proposition, I have two markets. So your brand individually is how you show up every day in life. So choosing to live your legacy fits beautifully for the individual. For an entrepreneur, what is the legacy that I'm creating is what's your brand to the market.
And what is your message and your...
Exactly. Yeah. So to me, I have different service offerings, but I have the same individual client, because all of my clients actively want to make the world a better place. They want to make a difference. So whether it's the individual at home in their life with their family and their relationships, whether it's the entrepreneur in his organisation, or whether it's the senior leadership team about their culture and the change that they need to make to engage more people, it's the same person.
It's kind of the same philosophy as well. I mean, you bring the same message and the same ideas, just to slightly different.
It is.
And I want to know, I mean, something I've been talking a lot about in my programs and in what I do is I firmly believe that with business owners, I think the problem out there has been that a lot of business owners create a business vision. You know, you're told to create a business vision and then a business plan and a strategy and work all that. But the problem is they do that first, and then their personal vision gets driven by the business vision. And I think we need to flip that on its head.
I couldn't agree more.
And say, you know, surely you should start with your personal vision first, and then every business decision that you make, you ask yourself, does that align with my personal vision of where I want to go, where I want to end up?
Yeah.
Rather than the other way around. It makes decision making in business a lot clearer. And I want to know your thoughts on that idea, because it's almost like, as you say, you're always starting with the individual and what the legacy they want to live is, and then what the brand wants to do, and then following on from that.
Look, I agree wholeheartedly, and I think that's what creates burnout.
And overwhelm, because you have this passion, because a lot of people are so passionate about their business.
And just because, you know, I'm got this baby that I'm working on, and I have my business, it doesn't define who I am. Intrinsically, I'm someone who loves connecting with others. I love caring for other people. I love researching ideas. I love just getting out there and watching a great movie. You know, that's who I am.
That's who you are.
How I show up in the world and the work that I do, that's the work that I do. It's a part of who I am.
But that's your I feel like the business that you're running, or that's a part of your contribution back to the legacy of the world and your bit that you're putting in there, but it's really important to also have your own.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm very conscious of that. So
and living that every day as well.
Yeah, and that's a journey. That really is a journey.
Yeah.
But having a very clear vision of what you want your life to look like, it's a game changer.
Do you think entrepreneurs are doing that?
They're starting to.
Yeah.
I think some have still got, you know, one foot on one side of the fence and one foot on the other. I really do think that that still exists. And it's slowly shifting and it's slowly changing. And I think that becomes just a case of habit. You know, we're used to. I know Arianna Huffington and her latest book, Thrive.
That's the whole movement.
You know, fantastic book, guys.
Yes,
by the way.
I love it.
Arianna, we love your work too.
Yes, hopefully you're watching this too.
And I think that's, you know, these are the conversations that the world's got to be having. You know, we've got to have them as business owners and women in business, but we've also got to have them with the men in our lives as well.
Yeah, because they're feeling it too.
Absolutely.
I think it's going to benefit everyone, and our children and our next generations coming up need to learn a different way too.
Yeah, and someone told me the other day in Australia, you know, we have the longest working hours in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't feel like that. I mean, I moved to Australia and I was like, I'm loving it here. This is awesome. But
just generally, that's a statistic.
And you've got such a lovely country here. It's a shame to be working so much.
I know. Yeah, I know.
So I'm interested now to talk about, there's also the large organisations, which are a whole other beast, right?
I
mean, they are just a completely other beast. Yeah. And I would imagine that some large organisations, very masculinely run, banks and all that sort of thing, how on board are they with this idea?
Well, you have to package up, and every entrepreneur will know this. You have to package up your offer. So I think Marie Forleo says, you know, give them what they want.
Sell them what they want, and then give them what they need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who you are and what you're selling. That's what you've got to do. So for the work that I'm doing right now, it is all around brand. And it is all around how you're communicating that brand in the marketplace in a paradigm where customers are wanting businesses to be sustainable, to be more transparent.
To be more human, I think, as well. They want them to be more human.
Yeah.
The corporation is kind of dead.
Exactly.
I think,
Exactly. You know, when I think back to Super Talent, I wrote that back in 2011, and that was very much around attracting and keeping the individual. So, you know, you had these bright shining stars, but you just don't know how to look after them.
Yeah.
You know, and the model around that was helping them to create a professional legacy in the workforce.
Yes.
And the workplace. And how you did that was through legacy learning, so allowing them to self-direct their own learning, and love, which was acknowledgement, appreciation for who they are and what they do.
Yeah.
So it's this idea of value, and people in business just want to be valued. And
everybody wants to feel significant.
Exactly.
I mean, Tony Robbins talks about this.
Yeah.
The needs of people. I mean,
Exactly.
significance, love and connection,
Yeah.
variety. I can't remember the other one. Certainty, something like
and
that.
Exactly, you know, but these things aren't rocket science, but yet so many businesses fail to accommodate basic needs of the human and treating them like a human.
But I think that's because they're going after a lot of corporations, they're going after the money.
Yeah, which short-term
the
goals.
profit, right? And they're saying, you know, and I always think, you know, like there's businesses out there that have done incredibly well. And I just think to myself, but how much better could they have done had they embraced more of this stuff? And more of the, I guess, the soft stuff that's seen a little bit, you know, the feminine energies.
Well, I think a great example of that, particularly in Australia, and there's lots of great there's lots of great examples in America about, that's a new word, someone...
Americals.
I love that. Peter Noah. But Ramsay Health in Australia.
Yes.
So back in 1987, they had 14 hospitals, pretty sure 14 hospitals, and they needed to basically give their culture a big wake-up call. So they embedded the vision through each individual staff member, which was the mantra was caring for people.
Okay.
So this all-pervasive idea, mantra, philosophy...
It seems so basic. Like Ramsay Healthcare, surely they're caring for people, but they have to actually create it as a mantra.
And so they did that. So culturally, over a period of time, I think it only took maybe, 5-6 years, the whole business was transformed. Now, in 2014, they have, I think, something like 140 hospitals in 10 countries. It's just extraordinary what can actually happen without the involvement, the collaboration and the cohesion culturally to allow that change to take place.
Well, because then all the staff and the people in that corporation feel part of the movement themselves. And they feel part of something greater than themselves.
Exactly, and that's what it is.
The profit or the bottom line. Yeah. And of course, it comes on to the next question. I mean, we are here to talk about wealth, but I mean, what is the impact on the bottom line? I mean,
huge. It's ginormous. It's just,
so why are not more companies doing it?
I think they're slowly waking up, but it's hard to change.
Well, because I think you're sort of selling an idea to them, and they're thinking, well, our bottom line's looking pretty okay, so what, we do all this woo-woo stuff? Because I can imagine the corporates thinking that. Yeah. And you say it's going to triple our bottom line or whatever. But I think it does. And
it seriously does. And I've got case studies that prove it.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's up to the leaders how they actually want the culture to change and what they want to create. And it's values-based leadership. And it's getting really clear. Sometimes, you know, it's very evident who's sitting around the table, who isn't meant to be there.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You know, I'm sure you would have just
the other people at the table are too afraid to say
it. Oh, yeah, you know, and so it's tough conversations. Sometimes we've got to have those. Or, as my good friend John DiMartini would do, he would just extract what's going on and he would balance the emotions of that value elicitation process to get to the core value of the individual and just see how that's actually serving him and change it and reframe the whole exercise.
Because you know what's interesting as well? I mean, corporate, they've always had, I mean, I've spent my life in the financial institutions and they always have the thing on the wall, our values, integrity. Yes. And I think, you know, it's sort of lip service, really.
Totally lip service.
And I don't think I don't know whoever came up with them, but I often used to look at them and think, you know, integrity, of course that's got to be one of your core values if you're a bank, right? You know, surely. But are
fingers and toes crossed,
yeah, and I think after the financial crisis in particular, I mean, the banking industry it needs this desperately. Are they, and it feels to me though like they're only just getting it now, and it's 5, 6, 7 years later.
Yeah, because banks now are out there in the marketplace actively spending more money in training and development than any other sector in the market.
Well, they kind of have to, I think.
So because of that, it's part of the reason. But I think it's also about cultivating environments where you've got leaders worth following and you've got a culture worth belonging to.
Because people want to follow leaders.
Oh, they do.
The thing. They're desperate. People are desperate for a tribe.
Yeah.
They're desperate to belong to something. And not everybody is a leader. And some people want to be the supporter of the leader.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I absolutely love the work that you're doing.
I
love this whole fusion. It's I feel like it's coming, but it's gathering pace, this fusion of feminine and masculine energy.
It does. I think because it's also commercially relevant. You know, if we think
well, that's what it's got to be.
Yeah,
that's the only way. It's the big corps anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, if they can understand, well, we can benefit people, we can make money, and we can look after the planet at the same time.
That's the abundance attitude.
That's good.
We can actually have it all.
Yeah. If
we all club together and do it right.
Exactly.
I mean, I love to look at Apple. What are your views on? I mean, Apple seems to be a company, and I have no idea what your views are on this, but Apple seems to be a company that has kind of gotten this right.
Yes.
A bit, have they? I mean, they practically own me because they have gotten me to a point where I could probably never change because I'm so, everything's syncing, all my machines are syncing together, and the idea of changing now and trying to figure it all out again, I just don't want to.
I think the secret to Apple's success is the coined phrase, be faithful to the small.
Yeah. So it was, each one of the small makes up the...
And it was being faithful to the creatives out there.
Yeah.
I remember having my 2LC Macintosh when I was at uni. You know, I wish I'd kept it. You know, now.
You were the fortune.
Oh yeah, but you know, it's be faithful to the small. You know, anyone starting in business, be faithful to the small. Have clarity around the market, the avatar that you're talking to. You know, we talked about earlier my switch to hang on, you're talking to all these different markets, but I'm actually talking to one person, to one identity, to one
within
need.
each of those particular... Oh, that's interesting now. I like that idea, that you can have one need that fills different markets.
So that's, you've got to have that. I couldn't be selling silk stockings and, you know,
bananas.
Exactly. You know, that just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But I think this idea of being faithful to the small. So the companies that I work with, it's a small group that's you know, a tribe inside that's saying, okay, we want to expand and kind of saturate this idea in our culture, in our business. With entrepreneurs, yes, I'm ready to change. You know, a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with, they've reached a high level of success. But they're asking the classic question of, is this all there is?
Yeah, because it's this whole problem with goal setting as well. Because the implication with the goal is that you put head down, bum up, and you go for the goal, and then when you get there, you come up for air and go, what next?
Hang on, this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
This is kind of the road to unhappiness, I think. So I do agree. Like, I love the goal setting thing, but I think it's more. I love the idea. That's why I love what you're doing. The project idea, because the project is you just keep moving with it.
Well, it gives you freedom.
It changes and evolves.
Yeah,
and you can change your mind.
Yeah,
you can just decide that's not the route or whatever.
And you can decide this
it's
is
like
a 6 week. Yeah, this is a 6 week project. This is a 12-week project. This is a 12-month project.
All leading into your big project of your life. Yeah,
absolutely.
Of your life.
You know, and I think we all have themes. I mean, a big theme of mine for a long time has been identity. You know, why am I here? What am I meant to be doing? Who do I work with? How do I make money? What does that look like? You know, monkey mind.
We can go on forever, I know.
Oh, yeah. And then I chunked that up. And I was like, well, it's actually about how you show up. So it's actually about what you're creating. It's actually about your legacy. Oh, Brooke, you're onto something here.
Yeah, you're finally getting it.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's like for a lot of us. And some people, they have that early on, and some people have that later in life. The thing is, get comfortable with it.
And actually, I was thinking back to what you said earlier about it changing, because I think really early on in my career, I was going for it. I felt like I was living my legacy, but then it did change, and I got tired of that. But I was still in it.
Yeah.
So it was a bit exhausting, and I kind of lost my way there for a while. And now, for the first time in a long time, I really feel like I'm living my legacy again. Doing this work, you know, it lights me up.
Yeah.
It really lights my soul up.
Yeah.
So if our viewers want to know more about your amazing work, where should they go?
Well, they should head on over to brookealexander.com.au. You can jump on Twitter and follow me at From Brooke. And every day I face on Facebook at Brooke Alexander Community. So I'd love to connect and meet with you there.
Brilliant. Brooke, thank you so much. What an awesome topic to talk about on the Feminine Wealth TV show. I absolutely love it.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
And remember, you can catch me later this week on my podcast, Wealth Unplugged, on iTunes. And I'm going to be giving my key takeouts from my chat with Brooke today. And remember to come and join me next week when I'm going to be going offshore for the first time. And I'm going to be interviewing a lady called Pina De Rosa, who's based in California. And we're going to talk about the power of your choices. See you then.